Hi, I'm Stephen from BySubject, and I'm excited to tell you how BySubject will democratize education. Currently, our database has over 1,500 contents from over 700 law school courses. After we raise capital, we will go beyond just law school data, and we will collect all available data from a set of schools, for example, 10 universities. If a user clicks a content image, the user is linked to a website that sells the respective content. If the user clicks a school indicator, the user can see one or more class names from the respective school that required or recommended the respective content. If the user clicks one of the displayed class names, BySubject will execute a search using the clicked class name. Here I've clicked entrepreneurship. Now BySubject has identified any content that has entrepreneurship in the content name, and importantly, it has also identified any content that was required or recommended for a class that has entrepreneurship in the class name. If the user wants to learn more about a specific content, the user can click the respective content name. For example, I've clicked Secrets of Sand Hill Road, Venture Capital, and How to Get It, and now BySubject AI is going to tell me about that respective content as well as related subjects. Currently, BySubject is using GPT-4o, and if a user wants to ask follow-up questions, the user can. If the user clicks BySubject AI at the top, the user is brought back to the BySubject.com homepage. On the homepage of BySubject, all 1,500 plus contents are listed in ranked order. If the contents are tied, the tie is first broken based off of the amount of unique class names that each of the tied contents has. So for example, Accounting Made Simple is ranked below the above content because Accounting Made Simple only has 2 class names and the above content has 3. If they both were tied in the amount of class names, then Accounting Made Simple would be ranked above the above content because ABC order using content names would be used. If a user wants to execute a search using the search box at the top, the user can search by class name, content name, or any part thereof. The user can also search by ISBN or by school name. So for example, if the user types in UF, now all the University of Florida Law School contents that were required or recommended by the University of Florida's Law School in the fall of 23 and in the spring of 24 are identified. Another interesting search is maybe the user is interested in patents, and if the user types in patent, then all contents that have patent in the content name are identified, and contents that are required or recommended by a class that has patent in the class name are also identified. After a search is executed, ties are first broken based off of whether or not the tied contents have the search query in the content name, and ties are next broken based off of whether or not the contents have the search query in one of their class names. After that, ties are broken based off of the amount of unique class names that each content has, and that's what broke the tie between these two contents. Next, ABC order using content names is used to break the next ties, and then after that, ISBNs are used to break the remaining ties. If the user clicks BySubject at the top, the user is brought to another page of BySubject, namely bysubject.com/course results. And on this page, all 700 plus contents or course names of BySubject are listed in ranked order with respective contents for each of the class names grouped for the respective class names. So for example, evidence and securities regulation both had 10 of the 10 law schools that we have data for. All 10 of the law schools offered evidence and offered securities regulations. Administrative law was only offered by 9 of the 10 law schools, so it's ranked below the above 2. If course names are tied, then ABC order using course names breaks the tie. And so the user can scroll down and see all 700 plus courses and all the contents for the respective courses grouped for the respective courses. This is really helpful because a user might be interested in law but might not know that there's things such as antitrust or property law or professional responsibility or family law. And this allows the user to learn more about the subjects that they need to learn in order to learn what they're trying to learn. So they might be interested in law, but they might not really know where to look or what to learn. And BySubject does that in an objective, clear fashion for them because all the courses are in ranked order and all the contents for the respective courses are grouped for the respective courses and put in ranked order themselves. If the user wants to learn more about a specific course, the user can click the course name that's displayed in the center of the UI, and now BySubject will tell the user about that course and what a law school called that course would cover. So for example, I've clicked corporations, and now BySubject AI is going to tell me about corporations and what a law school class called corporations would cover. Of course, like always, the user can ask follow-up questions or anything else they like. And again, if the user clicks BySubject AI at the top, they're brought back to the home page. Another interesting search that the user might do is search for tort. And if they do that, they'll see contents that have tort in the content name, but importantly, they'll also see contents that are identified because they were required or recommended by a class that has tort in the class name. So for example, this content exposure, poison water, corporate greed, and one lawyer's 20-year battle against DuPont was identified because it was required or recommended for a class called torts, and because the search query is the word tort, this content was identified because it was required or recommended for a class that matched the search query. Another interesting search that the user might do is search for criminal law. And here you can see that the top ranked content has 8 of the 10 law schools requiring or recommending it in the fall, winter, or spring semesters. And this makes it really clear to the user that that content is a high quality content that's on point for what they're trying to learn. The user has additional information through the source indicators and source indicator pop-ups that help them understand why this content might be relevant for what they're trying to learn and help them understand how high quality the content is. Clearly, if it's the top ranked criminal law textbook, it makes it easy for the user to know that that's high quality. It makes the user more likely to use that content. It makes the user more likely to purchase that content. It makes the user more likely to appreciate that content. Additionally, it's important to note that the source indicators on each of the pages, going from left to right, are ordered based off of U.S. News and World Report ranking. So, for example, the top ranked content has Stanford Law School's source indicator all the way to the left and the University of Florida's law school source indicator all the way to the right. Going from left to right, those source indicators are in U.S. News and World Report order. And if there's a tie, then ABC order using the school names breaks the tie. An interesting thing that we will do in the future is allow a user to select one or more of these contents and then search within the one or more contents. So, for example, if the user is interested in copyright law, the user can select one or more copyright contents and then search within them. So, for example, if the user clicks 3 of these contents and then searches fair use, the user can see ranked previews from each of the contents that they selected that match fair use. So if you could imagine multiple previews stacked on top of each other from multiple contents, and each of those previews displaying a preview that has a match for fair use. Furthermore, the previews can be limited to pages that have a corresponding table of contents match. So, for example, if a table of contents in one of the textbooks says fair use is pages 100 to 120, then the preview can be limited to those pages, therefore showing the user the most relevant part of the most relevant contents for what they're trying to learn. And this is a really powerful tool that will allow the user to use the best contents that are required and recommended by the most authoritative sources to learn what they're trying to learn. And another interesting thing is that those previews will have arrows or other user interface elements that will allow our user to skip to a next or previous match. So that could be going from front to back of content or back to front. And uniquely, we're also going to allow them to click to a next or previous match, but based off of the rank of the respective match pages. So if a certain page is referenced by schools more than another page, then that page would be the first page that is displayed in the preview, and the user can click to a next or previous match and go based off of the rank of the pages instead of just front to back of the textbook or back to front of the textbook. Another interesting thing to note, clicking by subject at the top again brings us to the BySubject.com/course results, where the contents are grouped for respective class names, and the class names themselves are also ranked. And interesting to note that right now we only have law school data. But after we raise capital and we go beyond just law school data, we will allow a user to do things like search or filter for certain departments, certain degrees, certain schools or colleges within school, for example, the College of Engineering or the School of Law, etc. And so, for example, if the user filters or searches by Juris Doctorate degree, a page like this can pop up where contents are grouped for respective course names, and the course names are in ranked order like you see here. And we could identify the courses if, for example, the course is required to get the degree across the schools that are filtered for. So if you have 10 law schools, all the courses that each of those 10 law schools require to get the Juris Doctor degree from the respective schools will be identified, and their contents will be identified and put in ranked order like you see here. But also courses that are required to be picked from by the respective schools can also be identified. For example, if a school tells their students that they have to pick 3 of these 5 courses, for example, course A, course B, course C, course D, course E, all 5 of those courses can be identified and put in ranked order. So, for example, the user could be interested in perhaps psychology, and maybe they search or filter by a Bachelor of Science in Psychology. And this would allow the user to see ranked courses for that degree and the respective contents for those respective courses, like you see here.